Now let's get to the Arctic Convoy.
My rating will not change on this.
6.9 stars for Eric Holmes. And look, Eric is presuming he's going to actually put a 4 stars for me, but I'm gonna bury the lead right now, and I'm gonna give the Arctic Convoy 4.5 stars and work my way backwards and say why I think it's 4.5 stars. I'm gonna say this might be a really boring review for you guys because it's just gonna be me and Eric 5 to 9 minutes saying yes, I agree for the Arctic Convoy. Anyways, here we go. It's 1942. Quote, the leader of a convoy carrying vital military supplies to a Norwegian outpost decides to proceed through treacherous, enemy-infested waters despite the recall of their military escort. That is a lot of words. So let's just say it's 1942, World War II, Norwegian ship. It's not a ship that is carrying tons of, it's carrying military weapons. It's a convoy, right? But there's only, what do they call that? There's a machine gun outside the ship. That's their only form of defense and offense. The convoy, most of it is just supplies, and they want to take these supplies across the Arctic and go and arm the Russians, okay, in World War II against the German and air naval forces. The problem is there is a British ship that is pretty much right next to the convoy, just making sure that they protect the convoy. The problem is that British ship leaves the convoy and they're surrounding other ships, which are also convoys, because they are worried about supposedly there's a bunch of German air and naval forces right around this perimeter. So now what do you have? You have this Arctic convoy all alone by itself, just with that big machine gun outside on whatever on the deck to protect themselves, and along with 35 civilian merchant ships, they are basically sitting ducks for these German naval and air forces. Will this Arctic convoy survive within the running time of 108 minutes? We're not going to tell you what happens, but I will say that if you're expecting an action movie just an action scene every 5 minutes, you're not going to get that. There are action sequences in this movie, but the reason why I'm giving this 4.5 stars is Eric mentions one of his beloved or maybe favorite genre is the courtroom genre. And this was not a trial, but this had a great characterizations because there's the captain of the ship and his character, he's all about going down with the convoy and heading straight to actually to their destination, even if they're going to be killed in the process.
Stay
Because
the
he said,
course.
stay the
Stay the
course,
course.
stay the course. He says, and this is not a spoiler, he says basically he considers himself already dead when he enters the ship. And that's, even though that's fatalistic, you can actually get behind that philosophy because he is, like Eric said, saying he is staying the course. But then there is a first mate. We're not going to get into the first mate's past, but the first mate has more of a well-rounded philosophy, meaning, well, we're surrounded by German ships. Maybe we should hide out for a while and not go on that straight line. And maybe we should actually just turn the convoy around and head to Iceland for safer waters and then travel and for another day because everyone else he wants to save the people on the convoy. So most of the movie has these two people battling their philosophies. And as a viewer, at least for me, I was shifting my alliances quite often, and I loved it. Ended up being more of a philosophical take on what would you do if you were the captain or the first mate. And amidst all of this philosophy, you get maybe within every 15 to 20 minutes some interesting action moments, and it's a very tense film. I love the Arctic Convoy. Yes, 4.5 stars for me. I've been blabbing too much. Eric Holmes, your turn.
All that, everything Greg said is true. And I will distill it down into this movie is Fury on a boat. That's all you need to know.
Fury on a boat.
I think the only thing I didn't really, it's not that I hated, but like could have done without is the opening titles and then the closing titles. Don't need that. Like just throw us into the movie proper. As they did after the titles, and I get it. and I'm here and I'm starting to learn about the characters and get all the characters and follow them, care about them. And then the situations happen, like the first situation happened where
Highly,
like
wait, wait,
the
sorry.
oh, go
Highly
ahead.
rewatchable, right? Highly rewatchable.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like one of the first scenes, they're in the boat, and one of the ships like far off like
Oh,
blows up, and they're like, what the hell? Oh no, submarine. And then you just see like the things like the submarine just kind of go under, and it's like, oh crap. And then the plane comes in, and then you see the bombs like hit and just miss the submarine. It's like it's a bunch of scenes like that where it's like, oh, this is so good. And like the action scenes are really great.
Eric, can I ask a dumb
And
question?
and,
Oh,
and then hold on. So the
okay.
action scenes are really great. And then once the action scenes are over, now we're stuck back with the characters.
Yeah.
And I'm really feeling like what they just saw, they're all shooken up by it. Now all of a sudden what I thought 10 minutes ago is off the table because of what just happened. And it just kind of goes like that. Like the action scenes are few and far between, but when they hit hard because they do the groundwork to build you up to those action scenes.
Yeah, look, and when the action scene stops with most movies, you're saying, okay, let's get to the next one. Let's get to the next. No, all the drama. You're a writer. It's just, don't you think it's just a well-written movie? It just,
Yeah, yeah. And in fact, it's weird because watching this, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm watching. This is like one of those movies you watch it and you forget you're watching a movie. Like it,
yeah,
it, 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 it worse. I felt like I was watching a documentary. Like there's a camera crew following this crew around, and I'm falling in love with them, understanding them, being annoyed by them, whatever you feel for each one because they're all different, people. Um, yeah, this thing is great. I just kept getting tickles the whole time, and then I won't get to the ending. I won't give
right.
away the ending,
Oh,
but
jeez.
holy crap, that
Oh
was
my,
that was
yeah,
probably the tensest thing in the whole thing. It's like, are we gonna do this? Are we gonna go A or B? Which one is it?
right.
And oh
Look,
my God, that
you
was
know
so
what?
good.
What's so interesting, Eric, is you're either going to go A or B, and there's going to be a result, right? One
Yeah.
of those choices are going to be wrong. I think what makes this
That's the thing. In that situation, none of the choices
that's
they're
right.
both the right choice.
That's
But
right.
one of them's gonna
Mm-hmm.
and you're real they're really just in a coin
That's
flip at that point. And it's like, oh God, what the hell is gonna happen?
that's what makes this movie so interesting is because it presents, you've always talked about just presenting both sides in a fair and
Yeah.
equal manner. And that's what this movie does with the first mate and the captain and the people on board. You see both sides equally, and you end up making decisions on your own. This is a movie that makes you think, and while giving you the genrefied experience. And I
Yeah.
think that's a rare thing to do. So,
I would also say, I don't know if Bruce would be annoyed by this or not, but the camouflage scene.
oh yeah, there's a great.
we,
That's a
we don't need
great
to say what
camouflage.
it is, but
Yes,
I was like, that is clever as hell. I
that
would
is
never thought
clever.
of that. But
That is
and then they
clever.
had the shot that kind of shows how that works. I'm like, yeah. I can see how that would work.
Also, I don't want. I'm not going to give too much away, but there are characters that you are invested in, but most characters, it's easy for you as a moviegoer to map out what they're going to become at the end of the film. And what's interesting about the Arctic Convoy is it gives you really interesting you I was really pleasantly surprised at the development of each of, like, especially the two main characters. I don't know about you, but I did not see a predictable situation with these two people whatsoever. Did you see, as far as,
No, and in fact, like the characters that would be the antagonists aren't really bad guys. And
yeah,
like there's even a scene where you have the coward of the group who
yes,
reveals themselves to be the coward. But at the same time, like you see the situation, I'm like, I can't hate you for that. I get
yeah,
it.
yeah,
Like the
yes.
antagonist, I'm like, I totally understand where you're coming from. I get it. Like there's no one that's like has a point of view where it's like you're the evil bad guy. Everyone's got a point of view where it's like I don't know if I would do that, but I get it. You know,
Yeah.
I'm kind of on board with everybody, even though I might disagree with them on one thing or another.
I think the scariest thing about the Arctic Convoy is it also insinuates that you can be right and be wrong at the same time. And sometimes the decision, the outcome of the decision is can fall on like just the slightest hair and and you don't know. Sometimes you can do all your best and even if it fails, maybe it's not even your freaking fault. Maybe it's just the way it shook out. And that's scary to me. Right? You can't make you're making the best educated guess, but sometimes that educated guess may not work out for you. And if it does, that might just be luck. So,
Yeah.
anyways, yeah.
Yeah, definitely hats off to the writers. And I'm gonna destroy the names, but I'm gonna give it a shot. We got three of them. We got Christian Siebenherz, Harold Rosenlow Eeg, and Lars Gudmestad.
For the
Um,
writers. And
yeah.
let me try the
So I don't know which one came up with the ending, but this probably isn't it, but this is kind of what's going on through my head. It's almost as if someone learned what a Schrodinger's cat is and
mm.
said, let's put let's cinematize a Schrodinger's cat, what that
Yes.
means, because that's exactly what it is. Is a cat dead? Is a cat alive? You're right both times until you open it up and see what the actual answer is.
Yes, 100% Eric. Yes. And director, again, I'm going to try like Eric to pronounce it. Henrik Martin Dalsbakken. This is a fantastic film, folks. If the Arctic Convoy is not in your local theater, please give it a shot, rent it. If you like very argumentative, very interesting thrillers, philosophical stuff, and if you like tense thrillers, it's there, and action. And the Arctic
Yeah,
Convoy,
that's the thing. We should probably stress more. Like the action is few and far between, but when
but
the action hits, it hits hard. Like the action scenes are great in this.
Eric, why do most, in your opinion, as a cinephile yourself, $100 million movie or $150 million movie out in the theaters, maybe it's going to be something like the Arctic Convoy, comes out in theaters and it's made in the US and it's directed by some, big budget filmmaker. I'm not going to name any names, Michael Bay, but and you're thinking, why does this movie have no level of tension or stakes? The action just glosses over you and you don't, but whereas something about the Arctic Convoy, which is made in on compared to something like that, a shoestring budget, but you're just right in the thick of things and you're scared. And I think what they do with the special effects is not so bad, right? They do a good enough job. So
You know what? If there's scenes in the special effects, I wasn't even paying attention. I was just locked in.
yeah, wow.
I'm sure if I go back and be like, oh yeah, that's totally CGI or that's totally whatever. But as I'm watching it, like that never even entered my mind once.
Yeah, so the I'm gonna stay with 4.5 stars. I'm not gonna go 6.9
I
stars.
was
I'm
hoping
just
I would talk you up to a
a
five at
five.
least.
I look. I'm going to borrow Bruce Perky. We miss you, Bruce Perky. I was kidding about not wanting to see you on Patreon. We're gonna be seeing you on Patreon in about 15 minutes. Yes, as Bruce Perky says, room to grow. I think this is for me, the Arctic Convoy, 4.5 stars with room to grow in theaters on demand, July 26th. And Eric, for the upteen time, can you give your rating on the Arctic Convoy
Yeah,
and just final thoughts?
this 6.9 stars. This is I mean, I saw Fury. I absolutely love
Love,
Fury.
great
Went
movie.
back and watched it a bunch of times. This is Fury on a boat. And so I'll go back and watch everything I loved about Fury is all the same reasons why I love Arctic Convoy. That they have the characters, the vessel itself is a character in the movie, if you want to be that person. But I also I think in certain ways this might be even better than Fury. But just
Yeah.
because that ending is so good.
Oh, there's a we can I would not nitpicking. We can name some. There's one sequence where I don't even want to mention it. There are
The
some
ending
harrowing sequences.
the ending on this one, obviously, we did mention it's one of two choices that are made, one of the
Sure.
choices is made, and then there's the fallout of that choice. I want to see an alternate ending where they pick the other one and see what happens there.
Right. Oh my
And
God.
that would be just as interesting, I think.
Look, this is one of those movies where it's on demand. I'm purchasing it. I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna wait till to see if it's gonna be on Blu-ray, but I'll 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 add it to my digital collection. I love the Arctic Convoy so much. All right, so that's our movies.